all about looking inward. So a lot of times we tend to blame other people for our stuff, for our pain, for our misery, for our hurt. I could have easily said, I blame this guy or these two guys for taking my sister away from me, and stayed in that space. But that wouldn't have allowed me to do the work that I needed to do for myself, to say, wait, something's not right within me. I knew that when I got to undergrad, when I got to Howard University, that I just wasn't operating at full throttle, and I knew that I needed to get somebody to help me out and through that space. So starting to do that really hard work of saying, you know what, I could benefit from talking to somebody, because what I'm dealing with, it's not going away, right? So stay away from the blame game, y'all. Don't blame everybody else for your issues. Don't blame it on lack of transportation. Don't blame it on this. Don't blame it on that. Don't blame it on whatever it is. But start to really look at what you can do, because this is about empowering yourself. Too often we give our power to everybody else. It's like giving somebody a remote when you don't want them to change the channel. So keep that remote. Be honest with yourself and what you're feeling, what you're emotionally experiencing, and how it affects your everyday life. So really starting to look at that. Now, I'm moving on to the O. So the how much time are we in? Okay, so we're about 30 minutes. We're good. So the O is for openness. I like to call it we-ness. And that goes back to the that we are naturally beings who are made to connect. In this age of being connected online, we're tremendously disconnected from each other. And I'm not saying that to say I'm not pointing fingers, because as many as I point out, they also come back to me. So as connected as we are online, we tend to get disconnected with everybody else. We don't reach out and call people like we used to. We don't, we'll text somebody, which is fine, which is great. And we'll messenger somebody on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But it's not the same as talking. It's just not. I'm fortunate that I'm in a position where every day I get to talk and interface with people on a daily basis. And it's a beautiful thing. Because even hearing people talk and say, wow, I never said this to anybody else, or wow, that feels so good for me to get that off of my chest. And it constantly amazes me, like, wow, you never said that? Like, and people are, I just love the resiliency of the human spirit. And the strength of the human spirit, just because when I ask people that, they're like, no, I never said that, but I needed to, and it's out now. Like, now we can work on that. Anyway, so when I talk about the openness, it's really about sharing with other people your experience, your story, your loss, your grief, because what I found, and what you will find if you haven't already, is that the more you share, the more people will open up. I remember when, whenever you just talk to people about losing somebody's going to say, oh my goodness, I too lost a loved one. How many times has that happened for you, right? And there's beauty in community, and that's really what this is about, is creating a community of people, a community of support around you. And I bet you, as alone as you tend to feel, because I know, like, we isolate ourselves in the very moments that we need connection. But for whatever it is you're feeling, somebody else is out there experiencing the same thing. So I would encourage you not to be an oversharer, because there's a difference between, y'all know, everybody out there knows that person who's an oversharer. Like, sometimes you're like, all right, that was way too much, y'all. Pull back on it. So don't share like everything with everybody, but find those certain people who you can really trust, who can help you through whatever it is you're going through. I don't know if any of you have heard of Brené Brown, but she's a wonderful author, and she talks a lot about the power of vulnerability, the power of opening up. She has a book called Daring Greatly, as well as some other books, but that's really what it's about, is being vulnerable. It's a scary place to be. Like, I didn't want to put a book out. I really didn't. That I started writing my book as more of a memoir and or a journal entry. And when I started telling people what I was doing, they were like, yeah, put it out as a book. And I was like, oh, okay, now I'm accountable for this. And I don't necessarily want to be. But and sometimes there's still that question of, did I do the right thing? But it's in our vulnerability and in our ability to share with others that if we can help at least one person learn and grow and feel not as alone, then that's what it is about, y'all. There was something else too that I wanted to say, because one of the quotes that I had for the O and the openness is, when you selectively numb human emotions and feelings, so like when we push away our pain, our hurt, our grief, you also numb joy and happiness. Now, it makes sense, but like reading that, I don't remember where I read that, but I loved it, because the more that we try to push away one thing, the more that we numb everything else, all of our experiences, all of our emotional experiences. So don't numb it. Don't numb it, because the less that you numb it, the more that you can feel the range of human emotion. Like, we're human and we're meant to feel a range of emotion, not just one or two things. So the N is Nowness, y'all. So this is, I love this one. It's more about meditation. It's about mindfulness. It's about being in the present moment. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier, which is when we get lost in our grief, our trauma, our sadness, our pain, our hurt, we tend to be taken either to the past or to the future. We think about, oh, I don't want to go through another holiday without that person, because I know how it was last year, so I'm sure it's going to be the same way this year. Who says that? Like, how do you know? How do you know? So the more that you practice being in the now and just being present with your emotional state, the more that you start to have control over your emotions, and less your emotions having control over you. I'm going to say that one more time. The more that you have control over your emotions, the less that your emotions have control over you. Practicing meditation, mindfulness, just being present is so powerful. And the more that you do it, the stronger that muscle in the mind becomes. And the stronger that muscle in the mind becomes, the easier it becomes to access. The easier it becomes to access, the more that you can call upon it when it shows up. Whenever sadness shows up, oh, there's that sadness again. If I'm listening to a song and it brings up sadness, oh, there's my sadness again. If I'm listening to that same song 2 days later and I can smile at it, oh, there's that happiness again. Awesome. No need to judge. No need to put it down. No need to say it's right or wrong. It just is, right? So just be present with your emotions. Something that you could do for mindfulness is even taking note of 5 things around you that you can see above eye level. So what are 5 things that you can see above eye level? What are 3 things that you can hear? What are 2 things that you can smell? What's something that you can taste? If I could, have you describe what this bottle feels like, how would it feel? If I couldn't see it, if I didn't know what it looked like, how would you describe it? So those are things that can just reorient us back to the present moment. There's another acronym that I love, which is GLAD, and it's Rick Hansen came up with it. And he has a book called Hardwiring Happiness. And that's for, the G is for gratitude. So on a daily basis, checking in on what you're grateful for. I have my gratitude journal right over there every morning, writing something in there. You can write 1 thing, 3 things, 5 things, but practicing writing what you're grateful for, making at least a mental note, if not writing it down. What did you learn? That's the L. What did you learn that day? We always learn something each day, whether it's about ourselves or somebody else. or the world around us. I'm just sticking with what you can learn about yourself or somebody else rather than the world around us, because I can go down a rabbit hole. But really taking note of what you can learn on a daily basis, or what you did learn on a daily basis. The accomplishments that you had that day. I say that in the simplest of ways possible, y'all, especially when you're grieving. An accomplishment for you that day might be getting out of bed. An accomplishment for you that day might be taking a shower. An accomplishment for you that day might be crying. Actually, I don't want to use crying as an example, because if you cry, you cry. You know, that's not something you accomplish. But it's just something that you're able to do a little bit more than maybe you were to do another day. And every day is different, right? But just taking note of something that you accomplished. And finally, the D is for delight of that GLAD acronym. What do you find delight in? Every day, you know, you go outside, you look outside your door, your window. What is there that you can find delight in? You can even go outside at night and look up in the sky right now, and the moon is beautiful. You know, find delight in some of the leaves that have fallen from the trees, and just how amazing nature can be. So there's always an opportunity, right? We tend to overlook those opportunities. Really being intentional about taking note of these things. There's an app that I love, and I talk to everybody about it when I'm talking about Nowness. So that is Insight Timer, and that's INSIGHT Timer. Y'all, it has like 12,000 different meditations, I'm sorry. And, oh snap, somebody's getting a Christmas gift today. Sorry, my phone just told me. Anyway, but it has over 12,000. Let me see, I'm pulling it up right now. So like 12,000 different meditations, and it's free. It's all free. You can choose guided meditations. You can choose to just do it on silent. And you can choose anywhere. If you do silent, you can do anywhere from, 1 minute all the way up to 24 hours. So if you want to meditate for 24 hours and be like a Buddhist monk, please do so. I will not be doing that. But, that's just a way that you can access meditation. A lot of people say, I can't meditate. My mind is always racing. I say perfect. That just means you need it even more. Our minds are designed to race. Our minds are designed to constantly have thoughts. We can't stop our thoughts from happening on a daily basis. But if we can learn how to tame that monkey mind, that monkey brain, that very primitive part of the brain that keeps us wired for anything that might happen and might be a threat to us, then all we want to do is just quiet it, right? So we don't want to get pulled by every thought that we have. And meditation really just helps you to be present with the breath. All it is, the very short and sweet of it, and I'm really minimizing this, but it really is just focusing on your breathing, the full inhale and exhale, and focusing on that. So that is a way that you can get in the now. So that being said, y'all, I think that was the action plan. So, I've talked to you all about all sorts of different tools and tips and techniques. As I said, I talk about not only my journey in my book From Mourning to Night, Overcoming Loss, which was primarily written, the basis of that really was the loss of my sister. And then, What's Your Action Plan? 6 Powerful Ways to Get Unstuck in Your Life Now. I actually have those 2 books right now at 50% off through my Square store. So if you go to my Square store, I think I put a link up on my Facebook page today. So since we're on Facebook, that means we're following each other. Go to my Square page, and you can get my books for 50% off today by entering the code Nikki2018. And again, that's just in recognition of her. So that's one thing, you know, and then there's the tapping. I think I talked to you all about. Oh,